The original how GPS receivers work, it starts out by saying our ancestors had to go to pretty extreme measures to keep from getting lost. They erected monumental landmarks, laboriously drafted detailed maps, and learned to read the stars in the night sky. So with an artist's license here, what I'm going to do right now is to transform our global positioning system, GPS, into a simpler and broader system. I'll call it the zodiacal positioning system, a ZPS. Instead of the active 24 constellation system around our Earth, it'll now be a 12 constellation active satellite system. You can see it with the green lines there, made up of the constellations of the zodiacal belt that surround our Earth. The Navstar satellites are 12,000 miles out. This zodiacal belt is light years out. Each of the zodiac constellation satellites circles our globe, making one complete apparent rotation every year instead of every 2 hours, as the Navstar satellites do. These orbiting satellites are arranged so that at any time, anywhere on Earth, there are at least 5 constellation satellites visible in the sky to assure accuracy for all skywalking adventures. It was the ancient sages, really, the teachers of humanity, who developed and implemented this zodiac constellation satellite network, ZPS, as an influential navigation system. The word influential is rooted in these words: study of the stars. Starry emanations of ethereal fluid from the heavens that affect or empower mankind, including the northern lights, electromagnetic phenomena, which comes directly from our sun, our solar system's anchor and fountain source of wondrous light. In our fast-paced scientific world, on December 11th, 2007, NASA's fleet of Themis spacecraft made 3 important discoveries about spectacular eruptions of the northern lights called substorms, and the source of their power. The discoveries include gigantic magnetic ropes that connect Earth's upper atmosphere to the sun and explosions in the outskirts of the Earth's magnetic field. This is an artist's concept of the Earth's magnetic field. You can see the light blue circle there, connecting the sun's so-called flux transfer event, or FTE, with a spacecraft on hand to measure particles and fields. 10 years ago, I was pretty sure that FTEs didn't exist, but now the evidence is incontrovertible, says space physicist David Siebeck of the Goddard Space Flight Center. As you can see, evidently, we on Earth are magnetically tethered to the sun. Wow. I'll repeat Oppenheimer's words. The best way to send information is to wrap it up into a person. Consciousness takes forms. Thinking is form. This image is from Sibley's Celestial Science. It's an engraving dated 1790. A GPS receiver's job, your first job or task in this course, is to simply put on a thinking cap and set yourself up to be influenced then by your own unselfish, noble efforts. To put your thinking cap on means to take time for consideration of some question. This reference goes back to the 18th century when it was known as a considering cap. Furthermore, the root meaning of the word consider is from the Latin considere or considerio, which means to think with or among the stars. Gosh. Instead of employing GPS Navstar's mathematical software to gather your location to destination data, namely math called trilateration or spherical trigonometry, you will instantly see by using the newly proposed ZPS zodiac constellation satellites that these satellites are mathemagical and just as accurate for your skywalking activities. As a receiver, you tune in, and soon enough, like every human child uses willpower to take their first steps, so will you naturally take your first steps into skywalking. Indeed, we are created out of wondrous, conscious star stuff. We're made up of recycled stardust that perpetually delivers new first light itself. Science calls this process nucleosynthesis, a recycling of previously synthesized elements and their self-built evolving life forms. We're going to look at various parts of the engraving from Sibley's Celestial Science. Let's look down at the measuring tools in the foreground. Then let's get a good look at the young man on the left sitting in the middle ground with pen in hand. Is he trying to figure out a skywalk in longhand mathematics? While the other young person standing has his telescope at his side. He's been taken in hand and is being instructed by the thinking-capped teacher. Admittedly, either imagination's intuitive way or mathematics' rational logic way can both be used. However, it does seem to me that intuition's speed of thought is infinitely faster than the academic speed of light. Let's zoom in a little more to the subject of the thinking caps and take a look at a variety of them. Is it any coincidence that the central figure has a starry crown? I'm humored by that. Self-crowned perhaps through personal efforts as she gestures her obvious understanding of skywalking and the cosmos. Following are two illustrations and quotes from the 1776 classic book titled Goody Two-Shoes. Believe it or not. The thinking cap was originally called a considering cap. It had 3 equal sides. On the first side was written, I may be wrong. The second was, it's 50-1, but you are wrong. And on the third side, I'll consider of it. During this part of the 18th century, these caps indeed were such utility that people of sense never went without them. In another chapter of this book, it's asked, what was Fortunatus's wishing cap when compared to the thinking cap? Interestingly, the wishing cap is said to have conveyed people from one place to another. Skywalking, as the central figure here points to a globe map, is certainly a remnant idea of the ancient practice of ether-goers. Goody Two-Shoes continues, peace and happiness depend so much upon the state of man's own mind and upon the use of the considering cap. One of these caps will last a man his whole life long.